Could you comment on how this particular inflationary period ranks among previous such periods in the United States, like the 1970s and 1980s? And what can American businesses and citizens do to reduce the negative impacts that inflation brings about?
Well, we've sort of attacked what you do yourself, and you develop skills that people are willing to pay for in the future, regardless of what the unit of exchange is. But in terms of inflation in our own businesses, it's extraordinary how much we've seen. I think you interviewed Herb Blumpkin at the Furniture Mart, and for 2 years, the prices have just kept coming in higher for these things, and we sell them for higher prices, and people have more money than they've had before, and they like to buy. And there's certain things they can't buy. It's like during World War II, you had a lot of money created, and people couldn't buy cars, and they couldn't buy refrigerators, and they couldn't even buy as much sugar or coffee or things as they wanted. They had little stamps and gasoline and all kinds of things. Well, eventually, if you get a lot of money in people's hands and you don't have very many goods, prices go up. Now, you can do all kinds of things to try and talk it down. And of course, inflation is never the same. Nothing in economics is the same the second time after it happens than the first, because the first affects people's attitudes, and the second, and their attitudes always influence the activity itself. I mean, it is an interesting phenomenon. People write a textbook, and they write it based on the last experience, and people read the textbook so they behave differently next time, and then they wonder why they're getting a different result than they got the time before. So anyway, we have sent out lots and lots and lots. When I say we, I mean the United States government. The government has set out lots of money to people, and at some point, the money can't be worth as much as it was when there was less money out. Here's an interesting figure that I think probably will astound you. Sounds me anyway. The Federal Reserve every Thursday puts out a balance sheet. The Federal Reserve and Treasury, they're complicated institutions, but they do put out this kind of consolidated statement of all the various Federal Reserve banks, all these things that have entered into legislation over the years, but there's a balance sheet. And 15 years ago, roughly, if you look, the Federal Reserve issues those notes I talked about a while back, and that's the one, here's the current one, and they print these pieces of paper. And they, one way or another, they got it in the hands of people. Well, the interesting thing is, people said cash is dead and all that sort of thing, cashless society. Well, there were 800 billion, go back 10 or 15 years, but there was about 800 billion of currency in circulation. And if you look at last Thursday's report, you'll see there's something like now $2.2 trillion of currency in circulation, 2.2 trillion. Now there's about, there's 330 million people in the United States. Let's look at it that way. And with 330 million people, and you have almost 2.3 trillion of currency in circulation,